Salutations, everyone. It's Rich Wilson. Welcome to Fantasy Baseball Live or Just Prospect Podcast. It's Saturday, July 2nd, about 12:30 in the afternoon. Today is kind of a special kickoff to our Top 100 weekend. Our midseason Top 100 prospect list has been done actually for a few days now. And today, consider this kind of a tease of the list. Some players I will go through. I'm going to go through about 20 of them. I'm not going to go through all top 100. Tim and I will record the list will drop on the 4th, so a July 4th present for everybody. And then on the 5th, Tim and I will record a podcast. Will interview me on the list that we have. So it's a list I worked hard on. Kind of did multiple versions of it because my first couple of cuts, I kind of truly went with the best 100 players that were out there in the minor leagues who I thought were prospects. I guess not the top 100 minor leaguers, right? That would be different because then you would include anybody that's playing in the minor leagues, not just players who you think have a chance, young players that have a chance to be contributors in the future, which is really what this is focused on. But I wanted to throw some young kids in there as well because I know a lot of people play in deeper dynasty leagues, and everybody owns the Corbin Carrolls and the Gunnar Hendersons and Riley Greens, all the big guys. Everybody owns those. And most people own the guys further down, the Ronnie Mauricios and DL Halls. I'm just looking at some names here. The Drew Romos, the Quinn Priesters, everybody kind of owns those. So maybe some guys that really shouldn't be on a top 100 list that are a little off that I included here just to give you some names. The list was interesting because this is the first time I've done a mid-season list that it did not include guys that were recently drafted. As you all know, the draft is the day before, at least the first couple of rounds are the day before the All-Star game. So I think it's 2 days before, right? It's on Sunday and Monday, the 2 days prior to the All-Star game, which I think is it next week? Or excuse me, week after next? I actually don't know. So anyway, it's soon, but the list is coming out now, so we'll not obviously include any of those players. And won't include any of the players that are still sophomores in college or actually just turning juniors like what Tim brought up. The Cruz fellow, Crews, who's a kid in LSU. So I don't know why Tim thought he would be in my top 100 when he's not even signed on the team yet. But so Dylan Cruz will not be on there. So it's just I will probably do a recut of that towards the end of the year, definitely, and my top 100 going into next season. They will be included in there. And usually there's about 15%, so 12 to 18 guys from that draft will be in the top 100. And it's a pretty deep draft this year, so you could see a number of, towards that upper end. So this might be the only opportunity to talk about some of these players in detail. So again, why I wanted to kind of put some of maybe some lesser known guys in there. Let me give you a breakdown. Go to my spreadsheet here, breakdown of by position, which I think is pretty interesting. Very light pitching. There are 7 left-handed pitchers and 21 right-handed pitchers, so only 28% of the list is pitching. I don't think I've ever done a top 100 list of any sort that had that few pitchers. Part of that is because so many of the pitchers have been brought up, and I don't like to put low A pitchers, high A pitchers on top 100 lists. There are some here, but I usually like to put guys in double A and some triple A guys because pitching is so volatile, so random, that you want to have more assurance that these guys are actually going to, kind of going to do it. So there's only 28 pitchers. There's 19 outfielders. There's 26 shortstops. Now, a lot of those shortstops will not stay shortstops. They will eventually turn into second base, some outfielder, some third base, but there are 26, and that makes sense to me because that is your most athletic position, and where most of the best players start, and then they eventually move off of that. Only 4 second basemen and 4 first basemen, and there's 12 catchers. And look, I know many of you play in one catcher formats. Like, well, Wilson, don't clog up the top 100 with catchers. I'm probably not going to ever roster any of those guys because I play in a 12-team one catcher dynasty league. I mean, why do I need to have Drew Romo on my list? Well, because some people play in 2 catcher leagues, and as I've been saying, the catching position is turning over. There's just so many great young catchers that are coming up through the system. I mean, it's hard to. How do you put Diego Cartaya not on it? How do you not put Gabriel Moreno not on the list? It goes Harry Ford, Henry Davis. I mean, how do you not include those guys? I mean, they're just really good baseball players. So they're on there. So that's kind of the makeup. Again, 12% catchers, 4% first base and second base, 26% shortstops, 8% third baseman, outfielders 19%, and left and right-handed pitcher are 28%, and that kind of makes up. That makes up our basically breakdown. The other thing that I will cover in this podcast, there was actually a Twitter question that Jeffrey Estrella basically asked. He says, I was offered Freddie Freeman, and I guess he just said Freeman. I'm assuming it's Freddie Freeman and Kevin Gossman for Corbin Carroll and Esteury Ruiz. This trade might put me over the top for this year, but I'm afraid these two will become fantasy studs in the near future. And it's a great question. And since both of these guys, Carroll and Ruiz, make my top 100, I think I'm going to mention both of those in today's podcast. I thought it would be a great opportunity to answer this question because I have definite opinions, and that's all it is, Jeffrey and everybody else. It's an opinion. I've been playing the Dynasty game for a very long time and have a definite opinion about this. I do not give recommendations usually on trades because I don't know your leagues. I don't know how people trade in those leagues, but I can offer general comments about how to deal in a situation like this. And it might surprise you, my opinion on this. And I will, when I get towards the end, that's when Ruiz and Henderson will be discussed. I will pause and talk about this. Let me give you number 100 through 93, and then I will take a break. Just give you those names because I think there's just some guys that probably you won't see on many lists, but guys I like and guys that I think you need to be thinking about in deeper dynasty leagues. First guy has made my hot prospect of the week list multiple times, and that is Warming Bernabel, Burnebel. He's in Colorado. He is a third baseman. He can really hit. There's power that's starting to emerge. I think that gives them a high floor. I don't know if the ceiling is going to be a 20-20 guy. It might be more of a 15-15 guy with a guy that can really hit. Maybe the more power will develop and he might become a 27 guy over time as he fills out and that speed reduces a little bit. But it's a really good player and a guy that's in Colorado that, should, I think the power has a chance to really pick up, and it's the fact is he can hit. And I think and I really like the player. I do not own him in any dynasty leagues, and I'm bummed about that because I think he has a chance to be a very, very good player. Again, I'm a hit over tools guy. So if you give me a crazy tool guy who can hit, and you have to have some tools, by the way. If you give me a crazy tool guy who can hit, and a guy who's got solid tools but can really hit, I almost always go with the solid tools guy who can hit over the crazy tools. And we're going to get to a guy who's got crazy tools that can hit, but he might defy the odds. And there's always those guys that are out there. I mean, it always comes down to Zach Veen, who's got not crazy tools, but really good tools, but strikes out too much, versus Robert Hassel, both drafted almost side by side in that 2019 draft. And Hassel's the better hitter. There's no question. He's got good speed, but Veen's faster. Veen's got more power, but he's going to strike out more. So, and where do you go in that case? And that's a little closer because Veen he can still hit. I mean, I don't think he's going to post a 230 batting average, but I do worry about guys with crazy tools that are going to post a 230 batting average with a 285 on base percentage and, yeah, have a chance to go 20-20, but are they going to get the playing time? And that's where I always struggle with versus a guy that goes 18 home runs and 11 stolen bases and hits 280 with a, let's call it 270 with a 350 on base percentage. That guy's probably going to play because the on base percentage is much higher and higher run creation and all that kind of stuff. So that's what I like about Warming Bernabel. Number 99 is Ken Waldichuk, and I brought him up to Tim. I've seen Waldichuk pitch a bunch of times. I saw his first game in Double-A last year. Probably seen him pitch 4 or 5 times. He's a good pitcher. He's not a great pitcher, but he's a guy that is going to be up and going to be up soon. And he's going to be better than you think. I think a number 3/number 4 starter, but he's got a great changeup and a great changeup and curveball. The fastball's just average, but I think he's going to get big league batters out early and often. Now, I think he might fall back into maybe a 375 to 425 ERA guy, but he's going to pitch for a great baseball team in New York. Yeah, the Yankee Stadium is going to hurt him a little bit, but I mean the Yankees are always in need of pitching. Now they've been healthy this year, but going down the stretch, they're going to need some arms, and I think Waldichuk is one of those guys. Number 98 is Sal Frelick. He is with Milwaukee. He's an outfielder. He's got a plus runner who I think is going to make enough contact to be a full-time leadoff hitter. Now, the problem with Milwaukee is they have a lot of Sal Frelicks, right? They got other guys that have a very similar skill set and guys that they've been drafting very high. I like Frelick, I believe, the most. He's the guy, I think like Turang is in the top 100 as well. But he's obviously at shortstop. But again, Turang has got kind of hit speed over power. And it's weird how Milwaukee, that's the kind of guys they've been drafting. Maybe Keston Hiura has scared them away. They wanted somebody that, players that could basically hit and get to the big leagues and help the big league club as opposed to, posting a 35-40% strikeout rate who had some power. But I like Sal Frelick, and he could be an interesting guy that can steal you 15, 18 bases, handful of home runs, and post very high runs scored and good on-base percentage. Number 97 is an interesting guy. I wanted to put him in here. That is Alec Burleson. He is with St. Louis. He is an outfielder. He's having a great season this year. I think I've talked about him on my Hot Prospect of the Week. Interesting guy, kind of a Jock Peterson type of potential because he has terrible left-right splits. So, I mean, against right-handed pitchers, I mean, he is slugging over 600. All but one of his home runs are from guys who are right-handed pitchers, but he doesn't hit lefties at all. I think he's slugging under 400 for left-handed pitchers. So ultimately, he might be a platoon guy, but I've learned with Jock Peterson, unless you're playing in a 10, maybe a really shallow 12-team league, Jock Peterson is helpful. He's already got 17, 18 home runs. I think it's 17 home runs. Yeah, because he's a platoon guy, he's only going to be 75, 80 runs and RBIs, but with 30 home runs and a 1 or 2 stolen bases, I think that's what Burleson will do. That's a pretty good player for a number 4 outfielder. So I think you can do a lot worse. So I think if you're like all in on Burleson, I know some of my listeners are because I hear you from Twitter, like, when's Burleson going to make the top 100? He's great, blah, blah, blah. Just know that he's got hair on him. There's split problems there. And that was Jock Peterson's problem coming through the minor leagues. We all kind of ignored that because he had a 30-30 season when he was in AAA and everyone went all crazy about him. And Peterson's had